What if the most powerful medicine cabinet in human history was never inside a pharmacy, never inside a laboratory, and never inside a supplement store? What if it was growing, quietly, in a garden, not just any garden? The gardens described in one of the oldest texts ever written. Because here is something almost nobody is talking about. The herbs mentioned in biblical scripture were not decorative. They were not symbolic background details. They were functional, precise, and in many cases, they were used with an accuracy that modern science is only now beginning to understand. Today, we are walking through 7 of those herbs. And not from a religious perspective, but from a biological one. Because, when you strip away the language, what you're left with is something far more interesting. A pattern. One that repeats across thousands of years. Stay with me. Because herb number 3 was so valuable. It was offered as a burial gift to a king. And herb number 6 activates a mechanism inside your body that you've felt your entire life, without ever knowing what caused it. Let's start simple. Number 7. Mint. Most people think of mint as flavor, gum, toothpaste, something refreshing. But in the ancient world, it was valuable enough to be taxed. Think about that for a second. You don't tax something that doesn't matter. You tax something that people rely on. And the reason they relied on mint is something modern science now explains very clearly. Mint contains menthol, and menthol interacts directly with the muscles inside your digestive system. It relaxes them. Physically, that's why mint tea settles your stomach. That's why it reduces cramping. That's why it works so quickly. Because it's not guesswork, it's mechanism. Menthol also interacts with receptors in your respiratory system, the same ones that respond to cold, which is why mint opens your airways almost instantly. That cooling sensation, that's not just a feeling. That's a signal, and your body responds to it. Ancient healers didn't know the word receptor, but they knew the effect. They burned mint, they inhaled it, they used it for breathing, for digestion, and even for pain. Because, when applied to the skin, menthol interrupts pain signals, which is exactly what modern topical treatments still do today. Same plant, same mechanism, thousands of years apart. Number 6, garlic. This is where things start to get serious. Because garlic is not just food, it's defense. There is a moment where people literally mourn its absence. They don't mourn luxury, they don't mourn wealth, they mourn garlic. And that tells you everything. Because when garlic is crushed, something happens. A transformation, a compound is created that did not exist before. And that compound targets bacteria, viruses, fungi, all at once. Not through one pathway, but through multiple. Which is why it's so difficult for pathogens to adapt to it. Modern studies confirm it reduces illness frequency, supports heart health, improves circulation. But here is the detail most people miss. Heat destroys it. Which means the way you use garlic changes everything. Raw garlic is not the same as cooked garlic. Not even close. And ancient cultures knew that. Number 5, hyssop. This is one of the most overlooked plants on this list, but it appears at some of the most important moments, repeatedly and always. In connection with purification, that's not random. Hyssop contains compounds that directly affect the respiratory system. It helps break up mucus, makes it easier to breathe, and at the same time, it carries antimicrobial properties, meaning it doesn't just help you breathe better, it helps remove what's causing the problem, which makes the symbolism a lot less symbolic and a lot more practical. Because what looked like ritual was also hygiene. Number 4, coriander. This is where observation becomes undeniable. Because coriander was so familiar, so consistent, that it became a reference point. Something used to describe the unknown, that only happens when something is deeply embedded in daily life. But the real story is what it does inside the body. Coriander supports digestion, reduces bloating, speeds up gastric movement, but beyond that, it interacts with the brain, specifically with pathways linked to anxiety, meaning it doesn't just affect the body, it affects the mind. And again, this was discovered through use, not theory. Number 3. Frankincense. This is where everything changes, because this was not common. This was elite, a substance valuable enough to be given to a king. And the reason was not just rarity, it was function. Frankincense targets inflammation at a very specific level, through a pathway that many modern drugs don't even touch, which makes it unique, not just historically, but clinically. And when burned, it releases compounds that affect mood, calm the mind, reduce anxiety, which means those ancient environments were not just spiritual, they were biochemical, designed, whether consciously or not, to change how people felt. Number 2. Cumin. This is the quiet one, the one most people overlook, but it was valued enough to be counted, measured, even taxed. Because cumin supports digestion. At a foundational level, it activates enzymes, stimulates bile, helps the body process food efficiently. But here's the part that stands out. It also affects metabolism. Modern studies show it influences fat processing and blood sugar regulation, which means something used daily was quietly shaping long-term health, without anyone needing to explain it. And finally, number 1. Aloe. This is not just a plant. It's a system, because aloe works inside and outside the body. On the skin, it accelerates healing, reduces inflammation, supports tissue repair, and, internally, it supports the gut, the immune system, blood sugar balance, all at once, which makes it one of the most versatile plants ever studied. And the quantity it was used in ancient times tells you everything. It wasn't symbolic. It was essential. Now step back for a moment. Look at the pattern. Mint for digestion and breathing. Garlic for defense. Hyssop for cleansing. Coriander for digestion and the nervous system. Frankincense for inflammation and mood. Cumin for metabolism. Aloe for healing. Different plants, different functions, but one consistent idea. These were not random choices. They were refined over time, observed, repeated, proven through experience. And here's the part that matters most. Modern science didn't discover this. It confirmed it, with better tools, better language, better measurement, but the conclusions, they were already there. So the real question isn't, do these herbs work? The real question is, why did we stop using them this way? Because somewhere along the way, we replaced observation with convenience. We replaced function with processing, and we lost something in that transition. So here's something simple to try. Pick one. Just one herb from this list. Use it consistently. Pay attention, not just to what you expect, but to what you feel. Because that's how this knowledge was built. And once you start noticing the difference, you'll understand something most people don't. The answers were never hidden. They were just ignored. If this opened your eyes even a little, drop a comment. Tell me which herb surprised you the most. And if you want more content like this, make sure you're subscribed. Because the next one goes even deeper.